Okay, it says we're live. Let's make sure we are.
Let's see if I can get them. Well, I can hear myself.
There we go. We are live. I have the delay. Let me make sure the delay is not too long so we can get good, fast feedback from the chat. There we go. All right, everybody, can you see me? Are we live? Are we streaming in the chat? We just I'm throwing this together super fast, so you know. Let's see if the chat can see us. Yep, you see and hear everything. Okay, great. Everybody, welcome. This is I'm okay. So I do the watch Game Awards. We streamed the Game Awards tonight. I was high as a kite on the pot, on the dope, and as I'm kind of going, I might go to sleep. I don't know what I'm going to do. I get a DM from my pal Luke. Luke Bernard is making a video game. I might refute you on this, but it's certainly, if it's not the first, it's one of the first. But you currently are saying it is the first game ever about the Holocaust, correct?
So I guess why I would say that is because I started this basically 16 years ago. I did, and it was like on New York Times, planned for DS and everything. And I kind of got so shamed by the mainstream media. I was young, I was 21.
Okay.
That I kind of put it on pause until I was like a better director.
Okay.
And there has been, there has been some games where like amateur games and kind of things like that. So I'd say it's first kind of not commercial because it's releasing for free, but it's definitely the first one like this kind of mainstream that's properly done, and also which will be available on console.
Got it.
So,
okay, and you've got a demo coming out soonish, you think?
So I'm hoping to give the demo pretty much to some news outlets. We'll normally do like in January because it's Holocaust Memorial Day.
Okay.
But we're looking to launch like in April, so kind of really soon.
Okay, so and hopefully you'll be able to come back on the show when the game comes out and we'll chat about it. So let me and Luke talk a little bit first. I'll tell you what he tweeted me. We'll talk about what happened at the Game Awards. And then if you want to call in either on the Discord or on your phone, he and I are both happy to take your calls. But so I get a DM from you because we've been talking over the last year about, hey, let's get this game on the show and talk about it. And you're like, what did you think about the Game Awards thing? And I was just like, what do you mean? And you're like, you tweeted something like, if you don't know, there's a kid at the end of the Game Awards that hijacked, went on stage with Miyazaki for the Elden Ring Game of the Year Awards. After they were done accepting speeches, he steps up to the mic and he says something like, do you remember exactly what he said?
He said basically Bill Clinton, shout out to Bill Clinton, who was my Orthodox Reform rabbi.
Yeah, he said, I want to nominate Reform Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton, is what he said, right? And I was in my take on it was, and then suddenly the security rushed in or walked in, whatever. And then that was it. The camera cut away. We were all confused. Keeley shut the show down. And then afterwards, Keeley's like, the guy's been arrested. And nobody really, I was watching it and I just thought it was a prank that was like, wow, you're going to go through all the trouble of trying to get on stage at the Game Awards, which isn't that hard, but you know, it's not the Oscars, but it's not nothing. You know, you could buy a ticket to the Game Awards. It's not like it's, you know, but you're going to do all that. And then you're going to make this, you're not even going to have a really good, funny joke or a protest prepared or whatever. And so I was just like, it's dumb, but at least something interesting happened on the show. But then you tweet me and say, this is an anti-Semitic dog whistle. And so in between that tweet from you and this conversation, I started doing some research on this guy, and the internet's done a lot of research on this guy. Mm-hmm. And I will give the floor to you to explain this because I didn't see it that way. But again, I'm sure I missed it. If it was a dog whistle, it wasn't one designed for my ears, probably. And then the other thing is when you research this guy, he is an activist that seems to be,
for China, China,
Hong Kong, right? So I don't get the sense that he is out there banging the drums with these, you know, Jews will not replace us stuff, but I'll shut up for a bit. Why do you think this is an anti-Semitic dog whistle?
So I'm not saying pretty much that the kid is necessarily anti-Semitic, because there's also some things where we're still doing research, like some people are saying he's called Shai, some people are saying he's called another name, some people are saying he's Israeli, some people are saying he's French. So it's kind of still very early on with everything. So pretty much the anti-Semitic dog whistle. So he said basically Rabbi Bill Clinton, right? Mm-hmm. Plus wearing Yeezy shoes. And I know a lot of people might be like, you're thinking too much, Yeezy shoes, all those things. But it's in combination kind of with all those things. Because basically, as you know, there's a lot of conspiracies around the Clintons, you know, like pretty much, you know, some people are insane, but, you know, lizard people, Pizzagate, eating babies, all those things. Yeah. So it was kind of, a lot of people can take it as, okay, Jews are actually controlling the Clintons pretty much. And then also combined with the Yeezy shoes makes it seem like, for example, 4chan right now is popping off. They are like, they're super excited about it. They're like, this message is being viewed to millions of people right now. Look at it. Like the globalists are finally going to get taken down pretty much. I know it's a lot of insane things.
It's just like if that were the case, why wouldn't, if 4chan is trying to send a message to the globalists like you're fucked motherfuckers, why would it need to be so masked in you have to understand a weird meme-like culture before the message hits home?
So again, I don't know if that was the kid's intentions at all. I don't. But it's kind of weird also that he goes from Hong Kong activist to kind of that. Like it would make a lot more sense if he just went, basically denounced China when he went up on the Game Awards. Could have been like kind of the same consequences for him.
Yeah, I mean, he is a kid. He has been on InfoWars, but if you watch this segment on InfoWars, it was, you know, I don't like InfoWars any more than I like the dog shit that I just cleaned up, you know, in the yard because I took my dog out. But him on the show, he's like 13 at the time he was on the show, and he was talking about when he went into an NBA game and held up one of the kind of free Hong Kong, the Revolution of Our Times t-shirts. And, you know, in protest to all the NBA, basically, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just basically being slaves to China's government and blah, blah, blah. And so he seemed very articulate and very wise, and he was able to express his views. And as a guy who also wants to see Hong Kong free, I was kind of watching it and going, this guy seems cool. It's neat. There are 13-year-old activists out there besides, you know, Greta Thunberg, who are out there shaking the tree. So it's weird that somebody that articulate and that capable would then take this opportunity to go up on stage. And I mean, it's really weird, right? Because whether it's anti-Semitic or not, and no offense, but I think you might be reaching a little bit. But let's put it this way: if you're a Jew in the world these days, you have a right to have your fucking defenses up, you know, and you have a right to be a little bit more like, I don't know, you know. But whether or not it was anti-Semitic or not, it's weird that here's a kid that has experience on things like InfoWars and getting on the Jumbotron at like professional NBA games.
BlizzCon too.
And BlizzCon as well, when they were doing like in 2019. And he's got t-shirts printed with with what his issue is and what his stance is. And then he would go up on, it's like, is he having a seizure or a stroke? Because why, if you're that capable of expressing and sending a message, would you then go on stage and say something that is like, what are you talking about?
And also with all the recent things about Jews being said, you know, because of recent Kanye West kind of things, it kind of was also very much like, why kind of say that? Like, you know you're getting a rise, you're going to mention a rabbi, and you're wearing Yeezys. Again, you know, people could think I could be reaching, but it kind of goes back to basically Nick Fuentes. It does actually. So Nick Fuentes, I'm not saying, just so everyone knows, I'm not saying that kid has any connection to him, right, at all. But Nick Fuentes, what he kind of uses is kind of a lot of his meme culture, gamer culture. At one point, he was on a gaming platform, and they like to do things which are kind of contradicting each other. Like, for example, when Kanye West is like, "I love Nazis, I love Jews." You know, things that make absolutely kind of no sense.
Right. I mean, unless you assume that the Jews he's talking about are the black Jews that he's saying are the real Jews. He might be referring to that. Who knows?
Yeah, no one kind of knows basically at this point. Or when he put up Star of David with the swastika in the middle of it. Yeah. So all this kind of like culture, gamer culture, meme culture is pretty much mix and mashing it is with white supremacists. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not saying that's necessarily this kid, but he basically did unwillingly or willingly. I'm more going towards unwillingly, I think. The camp has kind of spread this message kind of to a big audience, and people on 4chan, they are seeing this message, which kind of emboldens them to do more things. pretty much.
So, okay, well, let me ask you about that, because there's like a guy in the chat who said a couple of times, Mad Joe, he says, it's a message to those that can understand. Okay, well, I don't understand it. So I understand that white supremacists hate Jews. I understand they're morons. I understand that they are so uneducated, they literally think the Holocaust didn't occur. They're batshit, not even crazy. That's a compliment. The Joker's crazy. They're just dumb and uneducated and sad humans. Okay. But if you're going to speak to that group in a way that only they can understand, what is the secret code? Okay. He's wearing Yeezys. He's talking about Rabbi Bill Clinton. Is it just that he's saying, I just wanted to let you know I'm one of you? I mean, why not say the Jews will not replace us? Why not actually express a level of anti-Semitism that expresses what their cause is?
So if you kind of go that route, you pretty much, I mean, you're ostracized from society. You are pretty much like, if you become kind of that level white supremacist. I don't think necessarily the kid, again, is like that. So of course, I don't think he would do something like that. Okay. He could have been coached into maybe doing this, because it also was a bet on Discord. It was too. So apparently another person said, he told him that he was going to be doing this 6 days ago.
I saw that, yes.
Modern Warfare, and that's kind of what Nick Fuentes and Groypers basically do. They kind of push these kids to do these dumb things. Like, say for example, there was nursing, which again was a Jewish guy. So there's this new streamer called Aiden Ross who mostly streams GTA, and I've got NBA 2K. And I was studying Nick Fuentes' stream like last Friday, and Aiden Ross, just so everyone knows, is Jewish, right? So he calls up Nick Fuentes, he does during the stream, and they're both arranging to do a stream together pretty much. And Nick Fuentes is being super nice to him, like he's not treating him like a dick. Like Nick Fuentes is kind of smart. He's not just, if he meets a Jewish person, he's not just automatically, I want to gas you, this and that. He presents, his white supremacy in a very clean image.
Right, all right.
He does. So nearly Aiden Ross got kind of cursed, and I don't think he's doing it now. I don't. Into kind of platforming Kanye and Nick Fuentes' ideas, basically. So I think this kid could have gotten, like, made into a bad bet or something like that. Or maybe the kid, I don't know, maybe the kid has gone extreme the past year. I don't know, because I don't want to say this kid didn't say this or that.
Right.
But it's the messages that kind of go out to all these kind of white supremacists, which can make them feel more like,
right.
Again.
The fact that you're saying that 4chan is blowing up right now, whether this kid, I mean, there's a couple of options. He's got a terrible sense of humor, and he just thought he was doing something wacky and funny, and it's like maybe it was an inside joke for like 3 kids in his school. Who the fuck knows? It could be that somewhere between him being incredibly articulate and cogent on InfoWars about freeing Hong Kong, and tonight he just basically, lost his ability to express ideas. Okay, maybe. And it could also be that maybe there's something a little bit more sinister happening. I guess we won't know for the moment. But the more important thing is, to me anyway, is if you've got people out there on 4chan and in this world going, he's one of our guys, he infiltrated, whatever. I'm just, I was raised Jewish. I'm not Jewish now. My mom was Baptist. My dad was Jewish. She converted, but I haven't been religious since I was like 7. I've been an agnostic atheist forever.
It's actually interesting you bring that up, because in the views of Nazis and white supremacists.
Oh, I'm totally Jew blood.
You are Jew blood, and the Holocaust was a race genocide, which a lot of people in America don't tend to know. So a Jew is a Jew, no matter if they're religious or not.
Right, but they don't even take the Jewish law, which is to say the mother side has to be Jewish for you to be Jewish. So in that way, well, if they, I'm one of you, Nick Fuentes. I'm a fucking Southern Baptist. Everybody's going. But no, I mean, so the reason I bring it up though is it's just like so. I have this weird, perspective on the whole thing, because I was raised Jewish, but we weren't religious for the most part. It was more just, tradition in the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. And so I look around now at what I'm seeing at all this anti-Semitism, and I'm like, where is it? Where do you see it coming from? And why do you think it's so it's exploding right now because as a guy who was raised Jewish, let me just tell you, we didn't have any money. My dad didn't control the media. I was lucky if we went a month without the power getting shut off at the fucking house. We didn't have shit. So why is this narrative out there?
So why is that? Because it's interesting brought up. Because I found out I was Jewish as a teenager, pretty much. Because my grandmother hid everything after the Holocaust, pretty much. Grandma's on the mother's side. And then, of course, the DNA tests, all those things. I was like, oh shit, I'm really Jewish, pretty much. And so I became, because of that, because my grandmother was scared after the Holocaust. She wasn't in the Holocaust. She looked after children in the UK. She erased everything. And my aunt came clean and she was like, yeah, this happened. They had to erase their names, everything. So it made me a lot more aware to want to learn everything, to know how this has happened. But pretty much, long story short, it's the oldest hatred in the world. It's just a conspiracy. So everything's recycled. Like it started off, the more recent modern anti-Semitism kind of started off in Russia, Protocols of the Elders of Zion. European anti-Semitism started off really bad, like in the medieval times, pretty much, where they're like, the Jews did this, the Jews did that. And so pretty much what Kanye, Nick Fuentes, and everyone is kind of doing, it's just the same recycled things. Oh, the Jews control the media. Oh, they do this. But also, anti-Semitism always rises really hard when Jews have integrated society and became kind of one of everyone else. So the Holocaust, the same thing. The Holocaust, it wasn't like Jews weren't just suddenly always like treated like shit. For example, in France, the Prime Minister of France was Jewish. He got sent to a camp. He did. So that's when the anti-Semites and neo-Nazis and all those things, white supremacists, can be like, look, they are controlling things. Look, they're powerful now. Look, this is all real, everything I'm doing. So really, it's just old school stuff. It's kind of like religion, right? Like religion seems to never go away, even it's been like 2,000 years. And I'm an atheist too, and I'm like, don't believe it one bit.
Right.
And that hasn't gone away. So it's kind of the same thing with anti-Semitism. And Nick Fuentes, I'd say, kind of is bringing back really a lot of classic Christian anti-Semitism, because he is a Christian supremacist, he is, and also a white supremacist too. It works with a black man. That's kind of what we kind of live in right now, pretty much. Nazis are not nearly making any sense anymore. They aren't. They, work with minorities. It's kind of, the world's gone insane. I would say
it feels that way as a kid who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and this was just kind of like ancient history to me. And now I'm seeing all this stuff kind of rear its head again. But I hope we do find out more about this individual kid's history, because it is weird that he went from being, even though it's weird that he was on InfoWars, which I think is a terrible organization, that he went from expressing some pretty very progressive liberal ideas. And suddenly now, if some people in 4chan are to be believed, he's suddenly the hero of the anti-Semite movement.
Well, that's actually an interesting thing, because there's something called the horseshoe theory, which is basically the far right and the far left meet each other. They do. So pretty much to the far left, Jews are capitalists. To the super far right, they're communists. So it's kind of like, I'm not saying he's going that way, but again, we're just making assumptions kind of about the kid. What I'm more like about what his message kind of meant. And also Jewish game developers, all those things, all noticed that they did, where they're actually kind of right now scared. Because that's one thing which people must realize. The past several months have been horrific. They have. The amount of messages we get on social media, the amount of stuff which we're seeing, like you just type in Ye24 on Twitter, it's like 4chan. Nazi-esque it is, pretty much. So even me myself, right? So for example, even just in January, PC Gamer did an article about my game. Pretty much, they had to close the comment section on their website. Then Facebook exploded into Holocaust denial. It did, and of course that's Facebook. But
was it? You said it was PC Gamer. So they do a story on your game, and what the comment section is flooded with anti-Semitic stuff.
Yes, on Facebook.
Okay, let's shift. How do you deny the Holocaust? I mean, there's a lot of things more practical and logical to deny than the Holocaust. And you jump to that. It's like, if you deny the Holocaust, okay, then what else do you deny? Do you deny the Great Depression happened? I mean, do you deny Amelia Earhart flew an airplane. I mean, where does your buffet of what you choose to believe is real stop and start? And how do they justify this horseshit? I had one guy, I got to tell you a story real quick. My daughter's just, she likes to argue politics like your dad. She's on Twitter or roulette or something, chat roulette a year or 2 years ago. And I overhear her talking to this guy who's saying the Holocaust didn't happen. And I go in there and I say, look, you can believe what you want. I don't really care if you believe it or not, but can you offer me some evidence to suggest the Holocaust didn't happen? And he talks about this one concentration camp and he says, there's no bodies. You can't find any bodies, right? Like mass graves. So I Google it and look it up, and it takes me about 5 minutes to learn that theory was debunked 10 years ago when they basically had a satellite fly over that could sort of see through the dirt and kind of like X-ray satellite. And they're like, dude, there's mass graves everywhere here. So what evidence are these people pointing to suggest this didn't happen? That's crazy.
Well, people like to have their version of alternative history now, and they'd like to now say, oh, it's just difference of opinion. I mean, the whole world, we saw what happened in COVID. We saw what happened with
right.
Humans are kind of like that in general. They are, so we can't really stop it. But the problem is, before on social media and lots of things would count, they'd stop it right away, and now they're not really as much. And funny enough, I actually have an argument about the gaming industry. I do.
Okay.
So my argument has been with the gaming industry. So most young people get kind of their history from video games now. They do, because they don't really pay attention in class in general. Like Call of Duty, kind of all those things,
I'm sure it contributes. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of history represented in video games, but sure, yeah.
Yeah, because I do talk to a lot of teachers, and they tell me pretty much the Assassin's Creed games, they love them because after the students get all super interested in it.
Interesting. That makes sense.
Teachers are saying video games are actually great. Teachers love video games.
Okay.
So with a lot of World War II video games, for example, I've had the argument where I'm like, you guys need to address the Holocaust rather than ignore it and pretend it didn't happen, because it's a big part of World War II. And like, even when the recent Call of Duty World War II did something in a camp, it was a prisoner camp, I was like, kind of go the extra mile, show what happened, because that will actually have a lot of gamers who'll be like, will actually kind of get that history, and they might decide to look a lot more. Because say, for example, when I see like on rooms and all those things, on gamer rooms, of course not all gamers, everyone knows, it's a small fringe, but they're like, oh, Holocaust isn't in this game, see, that's why it didn't happen. So I have a really big argument as video games need to actually address this, and that's actually why I'm making my game, because I actually want more gaming companies to address it. Like Wolfenstein, they kind of, in the second one, which I think is great in addressing the BJ Blazkowicz's Jewish heritage, I wouldn't mind if they actually go into be like, the Jews of Europe got wiped out. Go ahead, go full into it in your alternative history.
Right.
And that's more what I want. Well, I actually want to encourage the gaming industry to kind of do more, do World War II again. Because even in World War II films, they address it. They don't, it might not be the big plot point.
I would argue, though, that it depends on the film. Like one could say that your game, and I haven't played it yet, but in terms of what you're aiming to do is probably more aligned to what a movie like Sophie's Choice or what was it called, The Artist or something? No, it's a Beautiful Life, or the thing.
Life is Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful. It occupies more of that version of movie space and games. Whereas something like, Force 10 from Navarone or Raiders of the Lost Ark, they're not really, I can imagine EA or whoever's making the World War II game at any given moment at this point, I guess it would be the Activision guys, at least last year, we're making more of a Bridge on the River Kwai kind of thing. We're not really getting into and the same thing with Iraq. I mean, Fallujah, there are no war crimes in Call of Duty.
But I don't think that you make a great, actually what you said was actually great.
I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying that's probably would be their excuse.
No, this is actually a great thing which you mentioned, the politics thing, because I've gotten this so much in the industry. I have actually, where they're like, oh, don't make it about politics, and I'm like, it happened. Both sides who aren't insane agree. Even if you don't like Republicans, most of them agree it happened and it was fucking terrible. So to me, it's not a political thing. It isn't. To me, it's kind of something which we have to address.
Okay, but I mean, maybe I misspoke when I said political, but I'm talking. Okay, so in a game like Call of Duty Vanguard, and I haven't played that one, I heard it was terrible, but it's set in World War II. In that game, it's not so much about having a mission in the concentration camps in your mind. There should be games that do that. But if Call of Duty, even just in their mission briefings, explained that we're doing this outside of Auschwitz, where, you know, or just putting it in the lore is what you're saying. There's not even a mention of it.
Yeah, it's not even a mention. And Call of Duty Vanguard went completely ahistorical, and they were marketing it. They're marketing it, and you also want to know a publicity stunt they did. So in London, right, they decided for Call of Duty Zombies, and just so everyone knows, I love shooting Nazi zombies, but they did basically a mural with a bunch of Nazi heads. They did spewing out blood that looked like the wall of a concentration camp, and basically the head of marketing at Activision, I reached out to him publicly on Twitter, and I was like, what the fuck this is really in bad taste, mate. You can't do it because there's still Holocaust survivors in London, and see that it's like putting zombie KKK heads in the South. Right. That's not okay. There's even someone from The Man in High Castle, that Nazi Amazon TV shows, that was like, hey, we even noticed that we did some fucked up marketing. This is fucking fucked up. He removed the post eventually, he did, but the video's still up on PlayStation. Everything was still up. So it really shows how much the video game industry doesn't know, honestly, they don't know much about the Holocaust, they don't. And they don't understand how to even address things. Because also I feel like, pretty much too, from a Jewish perspective, right, World War II was the annihilation of our people in Europe. No matter how you look at it, the Nazis succeeded. Polish Jews aren't a thing anymore, pretty much. Yiddish language, all that thing destroyed. And so to us, it may sound weird to some people, right? Just want some kind of representation in those games, just to be like, hey, this happened, like you said, even if it's just a small mention, even if it's just a mission, even if it's just a mission taking out a Nazi because he was in his head of a camp, something like that. And when Call of Duty, even in Vanguard pretty much, didn't have any Jewish characters kind of taking revenge, that's why I love Wolfenstein, I do, because I think the cast, everything is fantastic about it. They had no Jewish characters pretty much, because there's so many Jews that fought in the resistance, they did so many things, and just those kind of small things pretty much is kind of erasing the Jews out of World War II.
You know what I'm wondering when you're saying that is, and I cite this book often, I think it's just a great book. I think it was called An Empire of Their Own, and it was about how all the Jews came over from Eastern Europe back at like the turn of the century, the previous century, and really built Hollywood, starting with Nickelodeons and all this stuff. And in that, they were so desperate to assimilate and not be seen as Jewish that so much of the work they created and greenlit and put into production and whatnot was this very waspy, white picket fence, white, perfect sort of Aryan type sense of this is what America is. Because at least according to this book, it's not a league of their own, an empire of their own. A different thing. But according to this book, they were very, they wanted to kind of shove their Judaism in a hole. I wonder if game executives, Bobby Kodak's Jewish. I think Strauss Zelnick. I don't know.
Everybody wants Bobby Kotick representing us.
Well, I know. I'm just trying to think of. I'm trying to think if there's a similar sense of people who are running the game publishers where that might actually be. I'm just guessing. I don't have any evidence of that. But
actually, I might have one thing too. Hollywood in America is kind of very different, I think, too. Because even if I'm putting kind of Strauss Zelnick and kind of Bobby Kotick in kind of those categories, is that they're kind of American first and kind of didn't go through what in Europe we went through.
That's fair.
And even when I talk to American Jews, right, some of them don't even understand the Holocaust. Some of them don't even understand anti-Semitism. While in Europe, it wasn't that long ago, we lived through it and we've seen the consequences of it, how there's barely any Jews left in Europe now. So I think that's why. And I think it's also, let's be honest too, it's also a big money-making thing also to all these businesses. So first they care about is just money.
Well, that's certainly true.
Anything else. Like, say, for example, for my game, right? So I've self-funded it, I have, pretty much, because I want to release it for free. I'm refusing to have it paid. It's releasing for free. And whenever I kind of talk to the game industry or things like that, maybe about helping funding, because it's an educational tool. This is against hate. It's actually an anti-racist game. It was things like, hey, don't know how we're going to make money off of this, pretty much. And also the other answers were in America was like, hey, in America, Jews are viewed as white, so they're not really oppressed, so it's not really our focus.
Well, the other thing about that is just like you said, there really is this both sides thing that has taken over the media, where there's this sense of like, well, the flat earthers need their stage too. No, they don't. The Holocaust deniers. Look, if a guy wants to say I'm having a press conference and I have proof the Holocaust didn't happen, I'll tune in. What do you got? Show me. I'm an open-minded guy, but short of that, you don't deserve the same presence, in the world in terms of educating people about what happened in history as a historian does. You just don't.
But I also think it's important that America really addresses the anti-Semitism right now, because even if you look at the Buffalo shooter, right? The Buffalo shooter, all his basically manifesto was that Jews control everything, the left, the right.
Yep.
These Nazis, pretty much, these anti-Semites, basically they think Jews are trying to replace the white American race with everyone else. And anti-Semitism, you actually have to try and fix anti-Semitism, otherwise other ethnic groups and trans groups get attacked. Because even with the anti-trans movement, right, it is full of anti-Semitism. It is all these things which people, again, because again, the right, the conservatives just don't want to see it. They don't. And kind of on the left, in America, they just view Jews as white and can't protect it. There's no Holocaust here, so let's not talk about it. But anti-Semitism is at the root of a lot of these shooters and lots of things. That's why I think we need to fight against that. I think the video game industry, we're the most influential industry, and that's why I think we need to educate more games. I'm not saying everyone that we do more games about Jews, but again, just that we educate people, because I think video games, they're artistic now. They are. You can do any kind of story, I believe, and I believe that's kind of what we've kind of missed. That we like, say for example, I love Neil Druckmann, right? I wish that he would do something about the Holocaust.
Well, I thought it was pretty, it's sad to say that it was pretty progressive, but it was pretty progressive that one of the stars of one of Sony's biggest budget games was not just Jewish, but it was a semi-prominent part of The Last of Us 2 in terms of her religion. And Dana, I think her name was, or Dina, or whatever the fuck her name was. So, I mean, maybe it's baby steps. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. But sure. But I think if Neil Druckmann went to Naughty Dog at this point and said, hey, could I get 260 million? Sure, Neil. Even Spielberg, when he made Schindler's List, they're like, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but you ain't spending more than 40 million bucks or whatever. He could have funded it if he wanted to, but he got, I think, Universal to pay for it.
Yeah. You know what's funny? He had to do Jurassic Park in order to do Schindler's List. That's how he got it funded. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me, because they're both from Universal. So let me ask you this. I got some people in the chat. Again, if you want to call in and talk to Luke, the number is 619-752-0548. But in the meantime, I'm looking at the chat right now. Some people are saying one of the issues that people have with Jews is Israel at all costs. They're talking about the World Cup and about how, there's a sense of, more and more people are becoming exposed to the narrative, and I'm calling it a narrative because I don't know what is true and what is not true. My gut tells me it's somewhere in the middle, that the Jews have done some awful things to the Palestinians, and the Palestinians have done some awful things to the Jews. And
okay, so basically, just to answer that, what has a country in the Middle East got to do with me, for example, someone like me who's European, right?
Right.
And American Jews? What has this got to do? It's a bit like, say, for example, when there's a mosque shooting, and you're like, what about Saudi Arabia? What about this? What about that? Most Holocaust survivors, which people don't know, didn't end up in Israel. They went towards the West. And the ones who were stateless, that no one wanted to accept, including the USA, ended up in Israel. Israel was created since World War I. So basically after the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, pretty much Jews of that area, pretty much, they did a deal with the British, this and that. So it's something actually completely unrelated to the Holocaust, it is, and also to just put everyone all in one group. It's people like in Israel, completely different culture, have Israeli friends. I do. I don't like that government, just so everyone knows. I think the government's shit. I think most governments are shit, just so everyone knows.
I thought Israel, though, was 1949, wasn't it? Wasn't it like World War II?
That's when it got founded. But the Balfour Declaration happened in 1918.
Okay.
Because, long story short, the Jews are over there. They witnessed Armenian genocide. They fought a spies for the British. They did. And the Balfour Declaration wrote down pretty much, hey, we'll help you get a Jewish state because all the Jews there. So that's pretty much.
But what these guys are not necessarily saying they agree with it. They're saying that maybe because the narrative of, hey, the Palestinian narrative is now getting out because of social media and things like that. And a lot of people are going, at least in America, because America has always been an incredibly, passionate, supporter of Israel for a variety of reasons. And I think maybe some people are starting to go, well, wait a minute, especially because, people think of Israel, they think of Jews, whether they don't sit there and go, well, it's the Jewish state.
Has majority Jews, it does, yeah.
So, I mean, do you agree with the chat that you think that's the reason that maybe more people are opening up to this anti-Semitism shit?
I'd say that I've had issues in the gaming industry because of that. Like I had an issue with Ian Walker at Kotaku. He kept on basically saying Zionists are mad because this. Zionists control the PS5 supplies. And I just wrote to his editor publicly on Twitter. I was like, hey, can he stop using the word Zionist? He's starting to sound like a Nazi pretty much. Then after he goes and calls me the biggest Zionist in the gaming industry, and I'm kind of like, I've never been to Israel, so I don't really know what you're talking about, mate.
Right. Well, why don't we, just so we're clear, Zionist is someone who basically feels that Israel can do no wrong. They're a supporter of Israel, basically, correct?
No. So the original term of Zionism was the belief of the creation of Israel of a Jewish state, pretty much. So Zionist means basically someone who believes that Israel should exist, pretty much. It's just kind of simple. It's gotten changed where neo-Nazis and far-right people refer to Jews as Zionists, and that's kind of, I really don't like that term kind of a lot, because to me, right, no matter if you like Israel or not, the country exists. So I'd rather people, if they don't like Israel, be like, I hate the Israeli government. I hate Israel. I'll give you an example. So Rami, pretty much, I forgot his last name, but Rami, the fish.
Rami Ishmael?
Rami Ishmael. So Rami Ishmael on Twitter, he's very anti-Israel, he is. But he's always like, Israeli government sucks. Hate the Israeli government. He doesn't use the term Zionist. He doesn't use all those inflammatory terms. He doesn't say Jews. He doesn't say Zionist. So to me, when I see that, I'm like, cool, go ahead. Because also the country exists and you have every right to criticize the government. You do.
Right.
But when you bring kind of the Palestinian thing, I really think that's kind of, again, that is a form of racism, that is, again, putting all Jews in the world responsible for a government in the Middle East.
But racism in and of itself is ignorant. I mean, you look at any racism and you're going to find an aspect to it that if you stay on the line, I will answer it and you can talk to Luke. But these people keep calling and then like, oh, just wait, give me a second. I got to answer the fucking phone. But any of these things that are racist, you can kind of look at it and go, well, that doesn't make logical sense. There's something else going on that's really driving the hate, right? Okay, let's see if this guy actually holds on the phone. Hey, it's Jaffe. You're talking to me and Luke. What's up, man?
Hey, Jaffe. I'm listening to your broadcast here. This is Bird Bats.
Oh, hang on one sec. You cannot. Whoa, one sec. Luke cannot hear you. Okay, let me fix this problem real quick. Okay, so that's coming into my. Oh, Luke, I fucking hate this. It's all the sound when you use Discord. It's just like, okay, I hear Luke on Discord. I hear this guy on. God damn it! How can I get you guys to hear each other? I usually use Zoom, motherfucker.
Do you want to put it on speaker?
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, I know, Clark.
No worries.
Sorry, go ahead.
I can leave a comment if that's
are you part of our Discord or no?
I am not.
Okay, go ahead and tell me. The audience can hear you, and then I'll just tell Luke. And in the future, if you want to call in, better to do it on the Discord. But okay, go ahead, caller.
I'll do that. Yeah, for sure. I just think it's like bullshit what this guy is saying.
Okay, hang on. He thinks it's bullshit. He thinks it's bullshit what you're saying. Okay, keep going.
Because how can
wait? I'm actually listening to it on YouTube.
humanity?
I am. So
he's saying that he's anti-government and all this, but here he is defending the Israel government.
He's not. Wait. He's not defending the Israeli government. He's saying he's saying he dislikes the Israeli government.
Yeah, I believe Palestinians should have a state. I believe they deserve equal rights.
But see, isn't this part of the problem? Again, I appreciate you calling in. I want to hear what you have to say. But the man literally sat here not 10, 15 minutes, probably not even 10 minutes ago and said, I don't like the Israeli government. I don't like most governments. I have a problem with the Israeli government. And here we are less than 10 minutes and you call in and say, he doesn't like the Israeli government. Maybe this is kind of part of the problem. It's like, where would you have picked up the information that he doesn't like that he does like the Israeli government, caller?
I mean, I've literally been listening for the past 2 minutes, but I'm just saying, like, why can't we just call out crimes against humanity every single time? You know what I mean? Like, why are we defending it? I mean, I heard him say it's racist to criticize the Israeli government.
I'm not defending it.
But hey, maybe I just tuned in at the wrong moment because I was hearing this guy sort of defend,
I have Palestinian friends. I know what's going on.
And maybe that's not the case. If he says, he's not on their side, then that's what it is. But
I think
we should always just...
Go ahead.
We should just always call out, injustices when it's happening. You know what I mean?
I totally agree, but I don't unless you have some data that you'd like to share, which I would love to hear. I don't think anyone is suggesting not doing exactly that. I think we should always do that.
Exactly.
All right, man. Well, thank you for the call, bud.
Dumb call.
No, it's all right. He kind of jumped the gun. But I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's like people will prejudge you. It's prejudice. That's kind of what it is. It's like, you know.
No, that is true. The messages which I get from people pretty much, like sometimes religious messages, sometimes we're going to kill your people, you're responsible. So we've seen today apparently I was responsible for the creation of Israel, which I wasn't aware of. And so, no, it's actually, that's basically why I was thinking, just by doing a game about the Holocaust, right? Just by doing a game about what happened to Europe, to my people in Europe, that's basically what I get. And no one is, it's actually kind of good it happens. Because this was just a call about the anti-Semitic dog whistle, and it goes always to that. Always, even in the gaming industry, it goes to that. It does, and it's really. I have Israeli friends who are fighting the occupation, who are fighting. Some people. I have Palestinian friends who are one-state solutioners. Mm-hmm. If people actually even knew me on Twitter, pretty much, there's a lot of Palestinians who follow me. There is. So it's kind of. I'm shaking a bit because it's kind of what we are actually. What we get non-stop, actually, as Jews, when you're public on Twitter, Instagram, in the industry, we get this non-stop. And it justifies in America pretty much the attacks on things. Like, I'll give you an example. Last year, I live right next to the Holocaust Museum in LA. Mm-hmm. Last year, the pro-Palestine protest, and just everyone knows it's okay to be pro-Palestine. There's completely, it is.
Yeah.
It's okay to denounce what the Israeli government is doing. It's okay to support the Palestinian people. It's insane I have to say this every time, right? But they basically paraded a Nazi. They put the Israeli flag and they put a Nazi swastika in front of it, and they're parading that in front of the Holocaust Museum. The Holocaust Museum has nothing to fucking do with Israel and Palestine. Like, that was just so, I can't explain how traumatic it is to people just to see a swastika like in front of a Holocaust Museum.
I mean, I think that's the point, though, right? I mean, they want that, But I mean, I guess you could go, well, the Holocaust Museum in World War II, and then after World War II, Israel was officially founded, and so maybe I'm sure they could draw some lines to make it work for them, but I don't know, man. I'm not so naive that I sit around going, can't we all just get along? I get it. There are fundamental issues that people have, and nothing is simple, and everybody is coming to Earth at various points of physiological brain evolution. Some people are just too fucking stupid to learn. They just are. That's just the fucking truth. And you got to wait for these people to eventually die out. But most people, though, are not like that. And it's always staggering to me that these especially young people. I mean, I guess Nick Fuentes wants to make his money. If that's his goal, it's terrible. But if, you know, at least you'd go, okay, he's a piece of shit, but there's some logic to this. But if he really is as anti-Semitic as he says he is and white supremacist as he says he is, you have just got to wonder who's raising these kids to feel so shitty about themselves.
Oh, the world has always been like this. It has. I don't think it's necessarily like a modern society thing. It isn't. Like, I also work, say, for example, with a lot of Arab people from the Middle East, because I just don't do, just everyone knows too, pretty much. Like, I help members of the LGBTQ from the Arab world get asylum in France. Well, there's things I'm very connected to that world too.
Okay.
And I have a friend pretty much who looks after everything that's going on in Yemen. And the Houthis, pretty much, Houthi rebels, for some reason on their flag, they have "Curse the Jews." And it's like, in Yemen, there's no Jews there. Why do you have random stuff? That's what I mean. The world is just, it's always been like this. It's just a humanity thing. It is. And it was less socially acceptable to be anti-Semitic before because of the Holocaust.
Right. And Trump comes in and
Trump helped a lot.
It's crazy, man. God, people you think they'd have well, that's very, you know what, that's very privileged of me to say. You'd think they'd have better things to do with their time. Fact of the matter is, I had a good education. I didn't come from wealth, but I could have mostly afford, you know, to live with my parents and stuff. And I had a lot of good opportunities that came my way because of privilege and luck. That allows me to make the statement of like, you'd think they'd want to do something better with their lives. But I guess maybe if you're born in some shit fuck town and your parents are assholes and they blame everything on the Jews, it's easier than looking at your own parents and going, no, the real problem is my dad didn't want to be a dad and he left and he treated me like shit. But I'll blame the Jews because that at least gives me a sense of, I don't have to really dig under the floorboards to figure out what's bothering me. That's probably what's happening, right? I mean, this is ridiculous.
But why it's just kind of interesting just with what happened. I think we're less likely to get like a Nazi called in pretty much compared to someone just called in right now, which again, he's calling in for a good cause, he is, but he's bringing it up towards something that just is kind of not the topic, it isn't. And that's kind of, again, constantly just what we face. Anytime someone condemns anti-Semitism, the whole comments get flooded with that. And I think that's probably why a lot of maybe companies, maybe in the game industry, are kind of scared maybe to do anything. Pretty much, they are.
I mean, they probably. I mean, the fact that if Activision actually put a Nazi storyline in Call of Duty, they probably would get all kinds of shit for it. But I remember when 2K did it with the Wolfenstein, and their marketing manager came out and said, I'm trying to remember the specifics of this, but it was like somebody was talking about either pro-Nazis or what about both sides or whatever. And,
I remember that.
And he said something like, which I thought was great. He said something like that, you know, in essence, this is not a both sides issue. You're either on the side of human rights and, you know, not being a piece of shit, or you're not. You don't get a moment in the sun with us. And I thought that was pretty awesome for 2K to do. But I don't know if I would see Activision doing that.
And see even if I know it about managed to get other companies doing that. I think I've talked to all kind of the big gaming companies that I have, like console manufacturers, and because of the game I'm doing, right, I wanted to just do like a blog post pretty much describing the game, and kind of at the end of it be like, we need to denounce anti-Semitism. It's rising, it's here, it's really not good. And I couldn't get that blog post approved. I couldn't, which to me was kind of...
Where did you want the blog post to appear?
I won't mention the name of the manufacturer, but basically on the blog, on the official blog where they describe the games.
Really? Interesting.
And sometimes like...
this was the Sony blog.
No, so Sony denied my video.
That's what it was, because I know you reached out to Sony and sent them the video and they didn't put it up, right? Why did they say they denied your video?
They didn't have an answer. They didn't, pretty much. It's like, sometimes we deny, sometimes we don't, and I don't know exactly what could have happened. I don't. So that's what pushed me to be like, okay, I'm going to go more towards Xbox now. Because Xbox did publish the blog, all those things. I'm still talking to Sony. I am like, I want it to be launched on everything.
Right.
But it was kind of my problem with that was kind of like, because the trailer didn't show dead bodies or anything. Just everyone knows, but I'm not showing Auschwitz in it. I'm not. It's about the Holocaust in France. And you're okay showing Nazi zombies, which I think is fine.
Right.
Pretty much and all those things. But addressing a real part of history and a real part, because Sony is a worldwide company, right? So it's not just America. You also have to think about Europe. Like, denying kind of part of our history just felt really like they could have been scared for multiple reasons. They could have been scared, okay, maybe this is too soon, maybe we'll get backlash. I don't know what it could have been, but I never managed to quite get an answer out.
Right.
So it's been quite hard to just talk to the industry kind of about these things, and just about anti-Semitism in general. Just when I'm like, hey, there's Nazis literally in these games, maybe this would be a moderation team. There should pretty much, because even the ADL.
I saw this yesterday, right? The new report.
Yeah,
double. Yeah,
doubles the amount of white supremacy. We just need to have a discussion with these companies.
Online. So online games have jumped drastically in white supremacy and anti-Semitism in the last year. It's jumped from 15 to 30% or something like that. It's crazy.
And also, so everyone knows, there's also a lot of Islamophobia too.
Yes.
So it's also, because I even have been working with people who did studies at the UN, pretty much, because they found out also a lot of Islamophobia, things like that. So we just have a problem we do in the gaming industry where we just need to kind of address it and just kind of decide how to reduce it. Because again, we don't want kids, like even a small Muslim kid, to be exposed to Islamophobia. He's done nothing wrong.
Right.
He hasn't.
Right. Let me do this. Let me bring in a couple of questions from the chat, and then I'm going to bring in a force of nature who's waiting to talk to you. I don't know what he's going to say, but he's got some energy. But this from the chat is a guy named Jokic. I'm just trying to think, maybe you understand this. I don't understand this. As an 18-year-old, he says, I'm going to say most of us are tired of the stim-ans. You know what a stim-an is?
How do you write that?
STEM space ANS. Stimmons?
Can you describe more what that is?
Maybe as an 18-year-old, you should have maybe spent more time in school. Although he says he follows it up by saying, system. I'm tired of the system. And people want to blame people. Got it. I'm not part of your system. I'm an adult. Anyway,
what's it? What? I'm so confused.
Here's what I don't know, Jokic, and hit me up in the chat if I'm kind of expressing it incorrectly. But I do, like I said, I do think there is kind of a place of privilege where a lot of people are like, well, can't we just stop? Can't we just stop blaming everybody? And and it's like, yes, that would be great. That would be fantastic. Who's going to start first? Right? Because it's easy to say that if, even though racist white supremacists will say, Jaffe, you're a Jew through and through, whatever. But I'm a white passing non-religious guy for the most part, even with the nose. I don't get, if I've had anti-Semitism in my life, I haven't felt it. It also may be that I'm apathetic. But the bigger point is, there are people out there who are getting this shit all the time. You think they would like to not stop it? But
we're trying. I'm trying. I mean, that's the whole point of the game, is to get people to understand it more. Like I'm actually, rather than going around talking, I'm making a game that I hope will change minds, just make people understand. So we are trying.
Okay, I got it. I solved the problem. You ready?
Well,
we make a game, and we basically get we get every perspective. Like you get like a platinum trophy. It's the easiest fucking platinum trophy in the world, but you have to play each game. How long is your game, beginning to end?
I'd say 2 hours. I mean, short game.
So each game is between 45 minutes and 2 hours, and it's an anthology of like 8 games, and each one puts you in the perspective of like there's a Jew, there's a Muslim, there's a white dude, Aryan race guy, and how he got pulled into his stuff. There's a pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, and you just play all their perspectives. And then it's just like, look, we're all fucking sick of it. We're all picked on. We're all feeling shitty. And honestly, if we want to go after anybody, let's go after the fucking capitalists, corporations that are totally the ones that we're really upset about, because the Jews aren't keeping you from your money. Maybe there's an executive who happens to be Jewish, but it's not the Jews as a group.
But that's actually interesting, because I actually encourage. I want more game developers to do those things, no matter what it's about. I really want. I actually want to inspire. Like, I've actually had lots of students reach out to me, be like, "Hey, I want to do this game like kind of on this thing." I've even had Palestinian people reach out to me because of this. So I encourage this thing. I think we should see what's going on. I think people should be able to express via video games.
Right. There's this guy, Isaac Clark, but he's not the only one in the chat. I'll read you Isaac's, where somebody else said, games are meant to be fun, not have a message. Isaac says there is plenty of representation. Jesus, you can't turn a corner without that stuff being shoved in your face. It's actually having the opposite effect. I don't know.
Well, no one forces him to play the game. If you don't want to play the game, you don't have to.
Yeah, don't play it if you don't like it. But the fact, it's like,
There's one. I think pretty much the game which I'm doing is the most Jewish game ever. It's about the Holocaust. There's not that many Jewish games, guys. So I think it's okay. We're not taking over your video game industry.
Right. And is it going to be fun? Says Wayne. Well, I don't know. I haven't played this game yet, but I hope it'll be engaging.
Engaging, yeah, that's more the correct word.
I like how Bread or Decide writes the Fableman's bombed. The Fableman's bombed because of anti-Semitism.
I think the Fableman's bombed just because it bombed. It's a film about Spielberg's life.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it when it comes to streaming next week. But
I'm interested in seeing it.
Yeah, I'm a huge Spielberg nut, but it's not the kind of movie that
I don't think. Even the trailer, I don't think most people are like, "Oh, this film's too Jewish for me."
Yeah. What about, says Raging Utai, what about anti-Christian or more so anti-Catholic in Hollywood? Every second movie, there's a dig at some Catholic or Christian dude is uncool or bad. I don't know if that's absolutely accurate that every second. Bread says it's because Christianity is punching up. I'm sure that's true to some extent, but
I actually have an interesting take on that. So pretty much, again, that's comparing to me, right, and to a lot of Jews who are atheists, right, view Jews as an ethnic group, pretty much. So it's not necessarily a religion thing, but funny enough, he brings that up. I'm a big believer that we need to address the Armenian genocide, which when they killed the Christians in the Ottoman Empire, and there was a film about that, there was called The Promise. So when we address when there's been a genocide of Christians, we should absolutely make a film about it. So there is films about it, about things which have happened, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, I think, I imagine, look, here's the deal. I imagine if you're a evangelical Christian, or if you're a just a Catholic, it might be like the Palestinian thing, right? For the longest time in America, at least, that group could really do no wrong. That was sort of the group that was held up as, oh, you're Christian and white in America. You get all the privilege. And then, the stuff comes out all the time now about the Catholic priests that are molesting the kids. The stuff comes out all the time now about all of the restrictions that are really just unhealthy that Christianity can put on people's lives that really fuck people up. And it doesn't mean that the entire religion needs to be thrown away, although I think all religion should go away. But I think it does mean that maybe it's kind of having a bit of a backlash where people are going, wait a minute, there's a lot of people getting hurt by this ideology, and maybe we should address it. But nobody should feel shitty about being Christian.
Actually, what's interesting, so now you brought up, a lot of Jewish art and even like TV shows like the Netflix series Unorthodox is about a Jewish woman trying to leave the Orthodox community she's in.
Yeah, isn't she a lesbian? Isn't that the movie, or that's a different movie? There's like a Rachel Weisz movie where she's like in the Orthodox community and she's a lesbian. Okay, different film.
Yeah, it's a Netflix series. So Jews have kind of been doing this for a while. They have even poked fun at their own religion. They do so. And also, I don't know, because there's so many Christian films. Actually, even if you look at what Ben Shapiro's doing, all the Daily Wire, like they have loads of Christian stuff up. I don't think there's a shortage of Christian films, and I think it's okay to see more perspective, having more diversity in Hollywood, having more black films, and that. Like, I don't know, like me, when I go see a film, I don't care who's on screen, what they look like, where they're from, or even the country. I just want to see a cool story. I do. So I don't understand.
I think that's most people, but I think if he's saying, look, if this guy's saying, I go to a lot of movies and I watch a lot of media and I see a lot of anti-Christian rhetoric in mainstream films, I would say here's what I would say to you. If that is true, first off, I would love to get a little bit give me some examples of what you're talking about. But beyond that, I would say, well, welcome to the club, sir. How long was it that black Americans had to see themselves as Amos and Andy on the screen? How long was it where, Mickey Rooney playing a Japanese guy in Breakfast and Tiffany's, like the most racist caricature you could ever hope for? Look at the flamey gay neighbor has been a staple in media forever, and that's kind of changing. So maybe perhaps it's just like, yeah, you get to be one of us now, right? I mean, it happens to everybody. Mocking God says Legends is anti-Christianity. So what? I mean, if you're basically saying I can't mock the idea of God without a Christian person feeling that I'm insulting their religion, sorry. I mean, I'm not gonna be beholden to anybody's.
That's a bit fascist.
Yeah.
If you can't.
True. Okay, I'm going to bring in P Turtle. Let's
on
see
Discord,
what happens.
right?
Oh yeah, here you go. He's a force of nature. It's P Turtle. You're on. What's up, P Turtle?
I think he's muted.
Yeah, you're muted on your end, P Turtle. You're live here, but we can't hear you talking.
Hold on.
Legend says, "Mock the people, not the God." Well, God doesn't exist, so I can't really mock him anyway. But I mean,
I think he left.
No, he's there. He's. Hang on. We've got to put him in this room. All right, hang on. P Turtle, where are you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. What's up?
Shoot. Okay. Oh, damn. All right. What was I going to say?
I don't know, P Turtle. You're calling into a show that's live, right?
But you had me waiting like for an hour, and then I'm over here eating cereal. And then all of a sudden, I hear your voice coming from my bed, and I'm like, where the hell is this coming from?
Well, I kept checking my bank account for your money to hit. It hasn't hit yet.
Hey, listen, man.
Clearly, you think I work for you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No. Well, I was gonna say, issue. I
bitch eat cereal at 1 a.m. Anyway, go ahead, P Turtle.
I personally don't care about anything with Israel and Palestine. That's none of my concern. But as just the average American person, let me tell you, there are a ton of people who have grievances with the Jews. I'm talking about my handyman in my building. It's just there's so much.
Where do you live, by the way? I'm not trying to scoop out where you live, but just kind of which state.
No, that's fine. Believe it or not, I'm in a very Jewish area. I'm in New York.
Okay, Brooklyn, right?
No. I'm in Queens, but in a very Jewish neighborhood in Queens. Mm-hmm. And for example, look at what Jaffe did with the whole Activision Blizzard situation, right? When that whole scandal came out, and there was all this. What happened with the Activision thing? There was sexual harassment and all that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Jaffe did a video saying, white people need to do better. Now, I want to get to this point. You can generalize white people. But you generalize Jewish people. And I want to say this real quick, Jaffe. When I say generalize, I mean in more of a negative way. But he ends his video on the Blizzard Activision thing saying that, white men need to do better. You need to stop being homophobic.
What video are you talking about? And can you send me a link?
Well, come on. I don't have access to your entire library.
Do you think we're going to the Jewish thing? Because it's going into the grievances with Jaffe.
I'll make this point real quick. It don't make sense. In this video, at the end of it, Jaffe, when he was talking about Bobby Kotick, and who's the other guy? Mike Marine or whatever his name is.
Mike Moynihan, but I never said anything about them being. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Dude, let me goddamn say this. Goddamn it.
No, I was talking about white privilege, but I don't remember the whole essence of it. But to suggest that white men don't have white privilege, you're wrong. They do.
No, this was the end of that video though. After the whole blizzard, this was you capping off that white.
I'll look at it. But get back to the Jewish thing. How does it relate to the Jewish thing?
Saying that white men need to do better in this country. They need to stop being homophobic. They need to stop being racist. They need to stop being anti-Semitic or whatever.
That'd be great.
And it turns out, Bobby Kotick is Jewish.
I
believe
so.
And he's a dick.
What I'm saying is a lot of people in this country notice that white men or white people in general get blamed. And when it's a Jewish person that's doing something wrong, it's white people need to do better.
No, because if for example, I say Bobby Kotick is a dick, I hate him, that's fine.
But I'm just saying, okay, Bobby Kotick does something wrong. Why does a video end with white men need to do better and stop being anti-Semitic? When the guy is Jewish.
Because you're conflating, you're mixing a lot of things up that isn't what I was talking about. I was talking about white privilege and how it allows the kind of boys club mentality that was going on at Activision to spread and to survive. I was not talking about religion. You can as long as you're passing white, you absolutely benefit from white privilege in America. So it doesn't matter whether or not the guy was Jewish or not. It wasn't relevant to the conversation.
No, but you were saying that white people need to stop being anti-Semitic, which was basically separating them from white men, which we're assuming are whether they be Christian.
Mr. K says, as a Jew, I agree with Turtle that generalizing white people saying they all have white privilege is wrong. You're simply wrong. You cannot live in this country as a white passing person and not benefit from white privilege. I'm sorry. And if you think you can, you don't know what white privilege is.
Jaffe, what if you can live in this country and benefit from white privilege and Jewish privilege?
Okay. Let's go into this actually. What is Jewish privilege to you?
I will say this from an outside perspective and somebody who's very in tune with like pop culture. Mm-hmm. We know as it's obvious now. I don't think you guys deny it anymore that you guys are overly represented in media. You guys are overly represented in
yes.
You guys are
wait. Did you say banking? But banking, that's not true. All the CEOs say Greek, Italian, all those things. That's not true. But the media thing, okay, you want to go into the Hollywood thing pretty much.
Of course.
You do know that Jews weren't allowed to do any other job before in America.
And Jews invented the goddamn media in America. I'm not saying that gives them carte blanche to never lose power, but I mean, that... What's the problem? There was no movie industry before the Jews got here.
And also another thing too, right? If Jews had that much power in media, why the fuck is everything exploding all the time with all the anti-Semitism, all those things?
Because that's coming from more of an underground back fucking 4chan and IP2 always wins and stuff like that. You guys always talk about that we need to do something. I just watched an interview with the CEO of
Anti-Defamation League.
Of the ADO. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, all these things that, he talked about ruining an NBA player's life because the NBA player was playing a video game and said something he deemed anti-Semitic and was sort of bragging in this interview. This was an interview, I believe, yesterday about how
I haven't seen that interview.
In the NBA. You said what?
I haven't seen that interview, that part, but say, for example, maybe you want to bring up the Kyrie Irving thing.
White guy, and was basically saying, after we got him removed from the NBA, he started to work with us, and he can't get a job in the NBA again after that. And he was saying, he works with us, he's a good guy, but at the end of the day, when you say these things, you shouldn't really be allowed to work in the NBA or whatever. And it's like, why not?
So just so you know, so when Nick, what's his name? Who was married to Mariah Carey? Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon.
Nick
Oh,
Cannon.
man, I saw him at the knee. Oh, it was sad. Go ahead.
Yeah, when Nick Cannon did some things which were questionable, right? He kind of turned it around, and I believe in giving people another chance, because I do believe if you send them off the depths, pretty much they might get more extreme, etc. I believe in the Kyrie, like what happened to Kyrie Irving, right? Is that his name? I hope so.
Oh, that was the worst, yeah.
The basketball player, I think Amazon should have been the target to go after, because Amazon had that false singer pretty much. So just so you know, right, the ADL, which I also think does great work when it comes to research, things like that, I don't agree with a lot of things which they do. And lots of Jews also don't agree. Like, we're not one monolith which all kind of agrees on the same thing.
Yeah, look, I look at. I don't think the guy should have been removed from the NBA. The only thing I will say about that is what I said to you the other day, which is if the NBA is saying you have to tell us how you have to love Jews to play in the NBA, that's sort of the narrative you're pushing. But the real narrative is we have to make it's the same reason that Gina whatever was fired from Mandalorian. It's that you're going to hurt our business because you now represent a certain kind of brand that we don't want to be associated with. That doesn't mean that's just business.
Yeah, I mean, Gina ended up at Ben Shapiro's company, who's Jewish, so...
Yeah, I don't believe she's anti-Semitic.
I don't either.
What
I'm saying, though, is a lot of times these people get, quote, canceled, not for what they believe, but because what they express in public is hurting the business of the people who pay them. Now, you can take issue, as you should, with the fact that a man, as much as I think he's wrong, like Irving, the NBA guy, I take issue with the fact that he can't express a stupid idea without fearing for his job. I think that's wrong. But ultimately, that's capitalism. You want to fix it, fix capitalism.
Why can't Amazon have that video up? You know, they sell Mein Kampf. They make a ton of money off that. Why can't this guy, post that on his Instagram?
Okay, so the problem with us going to Amazon saying that, all those things, is because it had Holocaust scenario in it, and basically the problem is a lot of people could go searching for false things, and then that story becomes a lot more relevant. That does, and then people start believing untruths. That's why we have history teachers. That's why all those things, pretty much, because if everyone invents their own version of history, America's kind of fucked. It is, and we also showed pretty much what hate speech leads to. In Europe, we saw pretty much World War II, the prime example of that. So that's what I think. I think Amazon should remove it, because if they claim to be for diversity or those kind of things, they shouldn't have hateful things up. And of course, some Americans may make, being
hateful is a part of diversity. Diversity isn't just a perfect world. You're supposed to take the good with the bad. And if people want,
I don't agree. I don't want to hang out with Nazis. I'm good.
Okay, so but if you go down that road, P. Turtle, then what you're also saying is you are more than okay with a lot of these southern states that are changing their history books to say, the black slaves in the South were actually happy. They were happy being slaves. They had a place to sleep and a place to eat and 3 meals a day. And as long as they worked hard, they actually had a good life. We know that's not true, but you know what?
First of all, I have no problem with that either, because again, you should be able to do your own research. Second of all, who knows? There might have been cases of that. I'm certain.
Okay, but you don't put it in a history book and say this was the slave experience. You say maybe there was a guy named, Fred Atkinson who lived in Mississippi who wrote a book about, hey, being a slave's not bad. But that's a story about Fred Atkinson or whatever the fuck his name is.
Right now,
what do you mean by
that's not true? You know what I'm saying? We live in a world right now where if you cut off your genitals and you get, all these kinds of hormones.
Of course, it goes into the trans thing, anti-Semitism, all the conspiracies. Yes, it's also connected. It is.
They had the dean at the school talking about the butt plugs and the spitting on dildo that they kids. And he ran away.
Jeffy is not speaking for black people, Dave. I don't speak for black people. I speak for a kid who grew up in the South who has a problem with history books being rewritten to reflect things that 99.9% of historians say is bullshit. You don't have to be black or white or Jewish or Christian or Muslim to be able to go, yeah, slavery was a pretty raw deal for everyone, but certainly the black people. Well, I'm not.
This did since fucking human beings have existed. I mean, that's
it's wrong. It's wrong. Like rape is wrong, murder is wrong. A lot of things existed since the beginning of human beings.
Nobody's arguing that the Holocaust is wrong. What people are arguing about is the right to say and speak about things.
But guess what? You have the right. Like you're talking right now, you have the right. That's thing in America. Everyone has the right to say it, but people have the right to be like, "Hey, I don't want to work with this guy. Hey, I don't want this guy in my private business."
Yes, if the right wingers who think like you do want to basically say, "Let's become," let me finish. If they want to become socialist, which means that you don't even have to have a job, you can get fired from a job, but the state will take care of you. Then let's have that discussion. But what you don't get to do is talk about how pro-capitalist and pro-free market you are. And then the minute the free market steps in and says that kind of person with that kind of brand is bad for business, we want them out, then suddenly you think there's a problem. You cannot have it both ways. You're either a capitalist and you believe in the system, or you basically want to you want to support total free speech, but not free speech, but expression of ideas that most people find problematic. But you can't say both things.
So, like with places like Europe and Canada, that does become legislation. It absolutely will.
We have Holocaust denial, which is not allowed in Europe, and we don't allow hate speech for reason. You know, for reason. World War II. That's why.
There was a lot more that was going on in World War II. It's not just that.
What else is going on?
The Weimar Republic. You look at all the perverted stuff that was going on. That was one of the reasons why Hitler was able to take advantage and use propaganda to get a lot of his countrymen to get on his side. That's a fact.
You're just explaining his ability to raise an army.
Now, and then it was also being destroyed because of inflation after World War I. These are all facts.
What has inflation got to do with blaming all the Jews on committing a genocide?
Well, a lot of the business that was going on over there, and also a lot of the new wave social kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like the way they were socializing. They had like an institute where they started practicing. There was a whole bunch of like prostitutes having sex everywhere.
Okay, so they said you genocide because there's prostitution, which has existed for 2,000 years. Existed since the time of Jesus.
You keep pushing it as if we agree with it. I'm just saying there's reasons why, other than we just believe we're a supreme race to these people, and that's why we want to destroy them.
The fact that you're saying there are reasons other than, so you're saying you do think that you're a supreme race.
No, what? What do you mean?
Well, you said we. You mean the Nazis? I mean, ultimately, if the Nazis are walking around with 5 reasons, and one of them is the reason we want to destroy them is we think we're a supreme race, isn't that enough? Let's say one of them might also be that they know they have a time machine and they know one day a Jew is going to invent a terrible software bug in Excel. I mean, I'm saying all you need is the one that says we think we're a superior race, we want them to die. Why do you care about any other reason?
But I do know a lot of people who do believe their race is supreme, whether they be black or white or whatever they are.
They're fucking idiots and they're insecure. They should meditate and get some fucking therapy.
We're all the same. We're all humans. Like not one group is more superior than the other.
Our separators from IQ. There's a ton of things in our DNA. A white person's not getting sickle cell anemia out here. You know what I'm saying? Like. That just doesn't exist.
That doesn't mean a white person is superior to a black person. It means a white person.
Some people get cancer. Some people don't. Like it's.
At the end of the day, it's pride. And there's nothing.
That's why I said you need to meditate and get some fucking therapy. Because if you're such a fucking child that you think pride is what is driving your desire to harm other people and hurt other people and kill other people, then you're a fucking child in a man's body and you deserve no sympathy. You only deserve a bottle of Prozac and a once or twice a week appointment with a therapist, 2:00.
When you look at black people and their grievance with Jewish people, you look at music and you look at hip hop. Jewish people, I know people are going to say these are atheists because I know that's one way you guys.
One way you guys? Fuck you, P. Turtle. I've been an agnostic atheist since I was 7.
I actually want to hear what he has to say.
I'm not talking about Jews. I'm talking about you guys.
And I'm saying, don't tell me that that's one way you guys get around whatever. I am an atheist. I am an agnostic. There's nothing.
So anyway, when you look at the music industry, they have exploited, and not just in Hollywood, they have exploited. You look at people like Lear Cohen, Rick Rubin, Jerry Heller, and
you say Leonard Cohen?
Yeah.
Like the singer?
No. He's a music executive. He ran a bunch of labels. He's probably the guy who really, really controlled hip hop from the 90s and whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's an interview or even a segment of an interview. It would be great for you to look at. He's virtue signaling. He's talking about how he cares about the black community, right? But then he gets asked, well, don't you think it's hypocritical then to sign all these artists that promote drugs and lean and killing? And he starts stuttering and he says, I always, it's always the talent comes before the message. And I also have a family I have to feed, even though this guy is a millionaire, and but
that has nothing to do with him being Jewish. That has to do with him being not moral.
And there's also another thing, like Kanye West is known pretty much. He's fucked over also a bunch of artists. Like a bunch of people get fucked over in Hollywood nonstop, and they're basically all kinds of people. I'm Jewish. I don't like Hollywood that much. I don't. It doesn't matter. Hollywood is just kind of a lot how people nowadays operate, but it ties down to capitalism. Same thing in the gaming industry where people fuck over indie developers. It's just capitalist. It is. It's not just it happens that the guy is Jewish, but that guy's just a dick. It doesn't mean pretty much because say imagine like all the poor Jews, because that's the thing. Most people are just normal people that don't have all this money. They don't. So they're not controlling all these things or know all these things or even know these people. That's just a dickhead capitalist who is a dick.
But you guys do understand what I'm saying. It's not all Jewish people, right?
Oh, yes, we understand, Pete Turtle. But if it's not all Jewish people and it's not built...
If it's not Jewish people, you don't have to bring it up that they're Jewish.
Right. If it's not born out of their Jewishness, then their Jewishness is irrelevant to the conversation.
I think it's a way to trace back how it became like that. Again, you look at the book that you brought up and the Eastern European Jews that came out here and how it started, Universal and they started, Warner Brothers and and all, right? You look at that and it's like, well, how did all these guys just do this? Is it all random? They
didn't work.
I've read some of that book, though. I have.
But they started in textiles. They came to New York. One of the guys, I forget which one it was, saw Nickelodeon in New York, and he said, you know what, I'm going to buy 5 of these, and I'm going to start a little Nickelodeon thing and see what happens. And it took off. And then a bunch of the other Jews that had come over with the guy, they're like, hey, I want to try that. And it snowballed. I mean,
last thing, because we're not going to get anywhere. But
no, I want to ask about eugenics real quick, though. I want to talk about this real fast. And I'll bring in Mr. K in 1 second. But I do think there is something that we have to noodle with a little bit when we talk about, I think it would be disingenuous to look at where the Jews have a lot of success, on the whole. Like I said, my dad was terrible with money. That doesn't come with the, the Sephardic blood. But on the whole, though, yeah, you do have Jews that seem to excel in music, in entertainment, just like you tend to have. There tend to be, not always, but there tend to be better black athletes than white athletes. There are things that we can look at and say, on the whole, that race tends to be, have a greater deal of success in these areas. And I know it's wrong to talk about, but it's true. And I think maybe some of that fuels it. Whereas if you look at people who go, well, why do they get to control the media, or why do they get to control or have more influence in music or whatever? And it's like, I don't fucking know. Maybe because we're in a capitalist society. The people who make the most money rise to the top. If they happen to be Jewish, just like on a football field, you're not going to see a bunch of guys who look like me on a football field, but you will see a bunch of big black guys on a football field. That's just the truth. Because they're better at it.
The average person's grievance with them is not that. You look at years ago, LeBron James put out a video rapping, and on the lyrics he says, something along the lines of, we want to get that Jewish money, right?
Okay. LeBron James?
ADL made him apologize? He had
They
to
didn't
apologize
make
for
him
being
apologize.
Wait, let me see.
The ADL cannot make him do anything. The ADL lodged a complaint. The NBA, just like with China, by the way, when China complained and the NBA capitulated to China, the ADL says, we don't like this. The NBA says, you know what? If we go against you, we're going to lose more business than we want to lose because of the situation. So LeBron, you need to apologize in order to get this bonus that you chose to sign a contract that says, if you do X, Y, and Z, there's a problem. That's the language is the don't say the ADL made him like they've got some power.
So I just found out because I just had to look it up, and LeBron James pretty much he wrote and he said, I viewed it as a compliment and my bad. That was it.
But I'm saying he was pressured to do that.
He wasn't pressured to do it. He's one of the richest guys in America. He can do whatever he wants.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
Why is he kidding you?
West. He was one of the richest black men ever, and now look at him.
Who?
LeBron James, he still is rich. He's super rich.
He's still rich, but now he's pretty much
in Space Jam. Like, he's great. He's doing really well.
No, LeBron is doing well because he kowtowed. He apologized.
No, because he's a great basketball player.
You know who else is a great basketball player? Kyrie Irving.
Who?
And he had the kowtow. And he
didn't have to. He chose to.
You know what like Game Pass. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean because you Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, but I was going to say, okay, once we disproved you about LeBron James, you went straight to someone else. But, let me find another way for my conspiracy. Like,
and Wayne, I don't agree. Wayne says, let's be real. He was forced to. No, he wasn't. He chose to do something. God. Well, you can say, oh my God, but again, he basically said, money is more important to me. And continuing my brand is more important to me than the other things that I would gain by not apologizing. That's it.
I'm with you. I respect Kanye West for throwing away billions to stand on what he believed in. Right. I do. Do you guys respect?
I respect that. I respect that aspect. I don't respect 90% of what he says.
I'm sorry. What's this guy's name? I apologize. What's his name?
Luke Besson. No, not Luke Besson. Bernard. Luke Besson's very different. Maybe not that different.
Would you agree what Kanye did was honorable? And do you believe that he should have had billions taken from him and the whole deal taken away?
Well, okay, so
be able to keep his
Adidas, right? So with Adidas were founded by basically people who had ties to the Nazis, and that started coming out. And so Adidas, pretty much since they're capitalists, they were like, "Fuck, we got to fucking get rid of him right now," because right now people are starting to find out we used to be Nazis. And that's kind of why they dropped him, because they took so long to drop him. And also, but based on what he's saying now, like, I love Hitler, most people don't want to buy shoes from a guy who says, I love Hitler. So it came down really to capitalism, and most people in a capitalist society, and the right to free speech again, because he didn't go to jail.
Yeah, that's right.
So he had his free speech, and Adidas have every right to be. We don't want to be associated with Nazism, guys. Just kind of cut this. So that's the only thing that happened.
And
there's no Jews that run Adidas. There isn't pretty much. German. It's tried by German Nazis. We don't want to go near that shit.
And let me tell you something else. But I guarantee you, if Kanye has a record company, I don't know if he does anymore, but if he has a record company, I guarantee you, when he signs artists, there are clauses in the contract that say things. I had him in my contract that if you go out in the world and you behave in a certain way that reflects poorly on us, we have a right to terminate this contract. And here are the conditions that we will terminate it. And if you think Kanye doesn't put that in for his clients or his artists, he's probably got the same shit in his. And this guy in the chat, Wayne, where you're basically saying, this is what bothers me, Luke. Tell me what you think about this. This is Wayne's comment. Jaffe, he would never play again, talking about LeBron, if he did not say sorry. It was forced. It's BS to say he was not. Why do you think I can't get through to people like this, where it's like, he wasn't forced. He is choosing to play the game because he values money over his morals. And that's it. That's the
Hold on,
no, hang on. I'm asking Luke. And whether or not Wayne likes or dislikes that, why do you think there's this perpetual need to paint these folks as victims who, when they get, quote, canceled, they act like it's like you didn't have to say those things. And if you did and you didn't want to walk it back, I respect that. But you work for a company that made it clear you'd get fired if you didn't.
Say this. I'm
asking Luke first. Hang on.
Well, I think it will start with the cancel culture kind of panic, pretty much, where, they think you're canceling people because they said things which most people think are fucked up and just don't want to work with them anymore. I think it's that, and I think it's also because people just want to go ahead and find their alternative history and be like, yes, the Jews control everything. There isn't really much more to it, honestly.
But do you think they're just uneducatable? I mean, is there any way to get these people to realize that it is not this conspiracy? Like Wayne's like, it's corporate wokeness. It may be, but it's what sells tickets. And if you don't like it, stop buying tickets and they'll stop doing it.
Money. Disney's losing money. Every corporation is
and guess
money.
What? They just changed the CEO out back to Bob Iger. Maybe it'll change things, maybe it won't. But ultimately, trust me, Disney, if they actually are losing money because of the conspiracy theorists that say they're so woke, then they'll either go out of business or they'll change.
Why is something like Last of Us not selling like the first one did? A lot of shit is going downhill because of it.
Changing the argument. No one's. I agree.
But also, I'll be honest too. What's her name? P Turtle.
Yes, sir.
Why do you care? Who cares if Last of Us sells less? Who cares if Disney sells less? It's not your company.
I have young family members. I plan on having kids someday. People look at these properties as if it's something like, because I want to sit down and watch Mickey Mouse. This is part of a cultural war, and how you influence the younger generation
So you think a Disney film, let's say, for example, because I watched Lightyear, right? And I saw the two lesbian parents, and I was like, it was so short that I could have blinked and not seen it.
Which movie was this again? Oh, Lightyear?
Lightyear.
Yeah.
You think, because there's a lot of gay people that have kids, you think not making it normal will suddenly make kids turn like gay?
Well, first of all, I don't think gay people should have kids. But second of all, it's not about making kids gay. Oh, that's a part of it. But a major part of it is by normalizing. So to me, I never
it is normal.
Problem.
The Greeks were gay, by the way. The Greeks were gay. Just so
my biggest problem was always the fact that relationship existed in the film to begin with. And but guess what?
Why does it bother you? You're not making out with a guy.
You said what?
You're not making out with a guy. Why does it bother you?
My child, when I grew up on properties that promoted mostly positive things. Obviously, there were things that weren't.
Give me an example of what you grew up on. One piece of pop culture that you feel promoted positive things.
I think superheroes when I was younger was positive. Now it's all about
it now.
Now it's pushing a lot of this race stuff. Women are stronger than men.
Wonder Woman has been strong forever. In case you didn't notice.
Yeah, Wonder Woman also hasn't been that important for that long. I'm talking about mostly like Marvel.
Superhero.
All right, Pete Turtle. Now we're getting into just a realm of crazy. Pete Turtle, I'm going to let you go, buddy. Thank you so much for calling.
I want to say one thing, and I'll go. I can say it?
Okay. Yeah.
What I wanted to get to, I never got to, was that, Jewish people make up.
Sorry, Pete Turtle, we didn't give you enough time.
And they control 100%, or 90% of the media at least.
Wow.
And that makes people.
My God, Tucker Carlson is controlled by the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
You really think that?
Absolutely believe
Tucker Carlson basically posted Kanye the first time. He's anti-Semitic as fuck. He keeps on talking about George Soros, globalists. Like, come on, mate.
And they cut it out. They absolutely they edited that out.
Because he knew that it would be viewed really bad, and he couldn't have it. It was him.
He wanted to exploit one message and get rid of the other, and hopefully he probably thought he was saving Kanye from it.
Let me ask you this question. This is the last question. I got to ask you this. We got to let you go. Do you believe in? I'm sure you do. Do you believe in capitalism and the free market?
Entirely. I'm not.
That's all. Okay. The second question.
You
talk about it being a culture war, right? You are aware that John Schneider, Scott Baio, Kirk Cameron, they make movies. They make movies that are very family friendly and religious. If there was a market for those, that exists. What's the problem? Go watch those.
Because there was a market for that before, and then they, in about a span of like 4 or 5 years, they just flipped on its head.
Well, there's a market for it. You can go buy them right now. Go buy them.
I tell you, there might be a market for it. It's not a good market. It's not the market.
Because the Jews make better media. That's not our fault. Goodbye, Pete Turtle. We'll see you later. Bye. There goes Pete Turtle. It's like, hey, I can't help it if the Jews make better movies than John Schneider, Pete Turtle, but them's is the breaks. All right, here's Mr. K. Mr. K was in the Israeli army. You got a few more minutes, Luke? I know this. This is a knockdown, drag out, baby. That's what it is.
We can keep on going. I mean,
Dude, do you know how many lines of cocaine I did before this show? We are flying high, my friend. Here we go. Mr. K, calling directly from the Wailing Wall. What's up, buddy?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So as you guys know, I'm a Jew. I was in the Israeli army, and this is kind of to P Turtle is like, I agree with P Turtle on a lot of shit. You know that. I'm not really on the left. I'm not really on the right either, but I agree with P Turtle on a lot of shit. But that being said, I think that there's a few things that he's not getting. One is that the ADL does not represent me, okay? The Jewish media executives do not represent me. The Jewish lawyers and fucking bankers and the World Economic Forum guys, they don't represent us. So when you say the Jews control media, you're implying that it's the Jews as a collective. I'm part of the Jews. Luke is part of the Jews. Jaffe is sort of part of the Jews. And we don't control shit. So saying the Jews run media is like saying the blacks are criminals. It's not true. They're not all criminals. So to say the Jews run media is literally like saying the blacks are criminals.
I don't agree with that, but I know what your point is. I agree with your point.
Tell me why.
Well, your example suggests that blacks commit more crime and that blacks that blacks are predisposed to commit more crime.
I mean, there are people who would say that. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying I have heard.
And what I'm saying is, if you factor in the systemic racism, poverty, all kinds of opportunities that black folks do not get as easily as other folks in this country. If you were to pull those out, I think you would find a very different statistical in crime in terms of per capita. So
not if you take Africa into account.
I'm taking America.
I understand, but if you take Africa into account, one could make the argument that it is.
No.
I'm not saying it is. Again,
not in the case of Africa. I know a lot of Africans. I do. Nigeria is actually a wonderful country. Nigerians are among also the less anti-Semitic. I think I see the point which he was trying to make about people stereotyping people.
Right.
Sure. I agree. I just think the way you expressed it is kind of racist. But keep going.
Whatever. Anyway,
keep going.
See, this is why I sometimes agree with Pete Turtle and not you, Jaffe.
I don't care if you agree. You can still be wrong.
I know.
That you're wrong.
I know. I'm saying that for Pete Turtle to understand that I'm not some lefty, super woke, whatever guy.
When you were in the Israeli army, did you ever kill anybody?
No, I already talked. First of all, if I did, I wouldn't tell you. But no, I didn't.
Why would you not tell me that?
You're not really supposed to ask people that. It's not always a pleasant experience.
Give a shit what I'm supposed to do. What show do you think you're on? I want to know what it's like. I want to know, do you carry that tragedy and sadness with you?
I do not know.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to the Jew thing.
Yeah, I don't want to get into Israel. I could go for fucking an hour about
the
crimes against humanity, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get into that. But the other thing I wanted to say is, again, those people don't represent me. So when Pete Turtle says the Jews, there's this implication that we benefit from it in some way. We do not. Like Pete Turtle, I hate those motherfuckers as much as you do, bro. So when people think it's the Jews, that hurts us. The other thing is Kanye, getting dropped by Adidas or whatever, and you're thinking it's because Jews control everything. Pete Turtle, if somebody went and said, I love slavery, bring slavery back, you don't think he would get fucking dropped by every brand he works with? Of course he would. It's got nothing to do with them being Jewish. It has to do with them saying something that is wild and that people don't like, and the brands want to make money. Anybody would drop a person who said bring slavery back. You know what I'm saying?
As I would want them to, otherwise they wouldn't get my business. And that's 100%. That's the whole point.
Yeah. 100%.
You want to get rid of it? Let's become more socialist. I'm in favor of that, absolutely. But until that, you're not really addressing the problem.
Right, and then the last thing I wanted to mention, and this sounds kind of corny and stupid, but about the documentary thing on Amazon, this is something that I personally struggle with because I am super free speech, and I don't like the idea of ideas being suppressed, even wrong ones or whatever. And then when it comes to like Holocaust and Jew stuff, this is going to sound dumb, and I don't think you feel this way, Jaffe, but I know that I do. and I know a lot of Jews do, I legitimately have fear that it could happen again. I think Pete Turtle is black, I don't know, but I don't think he's got any fear in his mind that slavery could happen again. I don't think any part of him thinks that could ever happen again.
Because Pete Turtle he was kind of very obsessed with white people. He was.
Yeah, true, but he sounds black.
But yeah, I mean, I do think black people actually do have that fear. I do think they've had that fear in recent years when they've seen kind of like rise of white supremacy, all those things. That I do think, and I do think actually a lot of Jews feel that way too about what they're seeing happening in America right now. So that's like I believe actually both minorities in America should be more, how can I say, we should be more united together, pretty much, because white supremacy really actually hurts both of us. It does in the USA.
I think that.
What if Amazon had a section though? If they were to say, "Look, here's a section of content."
The crazy section.
Well, you don't want to call it that, but basically, you say, "Here's a section that really most historians don't agree with. Some people do. We think it's crazy, but they had to find a way to phrase it. But then you can at least label it and say, "Look, this is something someone wrote. It's probably not true. There's no reason to think it is, but here you go." I guess that's called fiction, but
they will start seeking it out, I think, and then they'd be like, "See, this is like controlled by the media or something." I think if we had a section, more people go to it, pretty much.
You know what bothers me? It's all related, but it's like this thing that happened, and I didn't start with Trump, but I think Trump lit the fire or lit a fire that poured gasoline, whatever. This idea that, I mean, I get it. I don't know if you get this when you talk to people who like video games because you make video games. And maybe Mr. K, let's put it this way. I have ADD, deal with it. My medicine's wearing off. But, the idea of not asking a soldier if they killed somebody. And then I have the chat saying, "Oh, you shouldn't ask that." Okay, well, I didn't know that. And now that Mr. K, who was a soldier, told me that, I'm like, oh, okay, makes sense. I don't push back and go, "No, you're wrong," because I have seen a movie about a soldier once and I know as much about soldiering as you do. But people think they're experts in every fucking thing, whether it is science or endocrinology or video game design or being a soldier. When did we get into this world where we don't want to believe anybody that is an expert and we only want to believe facts that make us feel better? How did this get allowed to happen?
I think people are just very self-centered and they want to believe everything they think is right. No one likes to be wrong. I think
but that's always been the case. Why is it exploding now?
Oh, because we have access to
the internet.
Okay. We have access to the internet.
So the generation that grew up with the internet has the ability to know just enough about something to talk about it, but you know what I mean? Not enough to know that they're wrong.
What's wrong with being wrong? This world is so insecure. I'm okay being wrong. I don't mind that you taught me it's wrong to ask a soldier about that. When I think about it, I go, "Oh, I never thought about that. That's a great point." Next time I won't ask such a pussy soldier. But the point is, Mr. K.
Fucking bastard.
But yeah, I mean, I'm serious though. I mean, it's okay to be wrong. When did that start becoming? I don't know. I don't mean to sound like an old fuddy-duddy. I'm just annoyed at it. It's just like.
Jackie, do you see that more in younger people? Because I tend to.
I don't know anymore because I don't know how old most people are. I hate to sound like a broken record, but clearly I don't. Meditation, man. The minute you start meditating, the minute you start getting out of your own head and realizing you are not your thoughts, you are not this garbled crazy in your head. You exist above that. It really frees you up to kind of go, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be seen as right all the time. I think if more people had that perspective, it would be a much better fucking world. But instead, it's just all this fucking insecurity.
Yeah. Combine with that and just combine with conspiracies. We've always been like that. Humanity, we can just look just at history.
You think we'll make it another 100 years? Do you think we'll ever get off planet and colonize the universe, or do you think we're going to blow ourselves up like every other species before?
I don't know. The Jews are going to get off planet. We're going to control the solar system. That's what.
Well, yeah, but that's because they're smarter, Mr. K. But the point is, I mean, in terms of humanity in general,
I think we're going up and down. I think because again we could look at the case of Greece, super liberal, pretty much. Then we end up in the medieval times where everyone was like killing each other for no fucking reason.
Right.
I think we're just going up and down. We progress as a human species, and we go down, then we go up again. I think it's just constantly because again, if we look at even 2,000 years ago, I mean, even Egypt back in the day, right? Fucking fantastic, multicultural, so much culture going on, like. And then again, the medieval times, when in Europe, we're just like kind of like cavemen in Europe, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the industrial age, but then we did horrible fucking things. We did. So that's basically what I mean. It's just up and down, up and down. I don't think we're smarter than how we used to be. I think we just have access to more information and we can say dumber things. We can.
I don't like
pretty
us.
much.
Do you like the human species? We're kind of awful, aren't we? Awful.
I honestly, that's what's weird. I know how much hate is out in the world, right?
Yes.
Also know how much positivity, and I know we can. I think we can actually come together. Honestly, I really do, which is insane. But the issue is, honestly, if I think about it, I think the media really is tearing us apart. I think internet is tearing us apart. There's too many people trying to tear us apart.
Well, because there's money in it. There's money in it.
Yeah, there's money. Yeah, there's money. Like if I give an example, like this past weekend, like I hung out with a Palestinian guy. I did pretty much in America, and everything was fine. Like there was no issue. It wasn't like the guy earlier, you know. Like
right.
I really think people like to remove the politics, remove so many things. I do think most people want to get on, but apart from some crazies like Peter at all, you know. But I think everyone's just trying to tear us apart too much. They are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, I mean, again, because they make a lot of money. Just like people who won't support your game in the gaming industry, it's probably not even that they don't want to. It's like, well, this is going to hurt our bottom line. Fuck it. You know, all they care, you know, how much is enough? All that shit. I mean, how much money does Bobby Kotick need before he's willing to do the right thing? How much money do any of these people need before they're willing to say, you know what, I can live without another yacht. I'm gonna give the people I laid off more than just some BattleNet cards.
It's never gonna happen.
Why? Why can't it happen?
I don't. There's something different about the type of person that gets to that level of executive. The type of person, that kind of person is fundamentally different than people like us. They are wired differently, and that's just what it is. You can't get to that level without being wired differently.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Let's assume that you could prove that. Let's assume that you could have an X-ray gun and aim it at people's heads and go, he's one of those people. Okay. Do you think you assassinate people like that for the greater good? I'm serious. Do you think you take them and you say, you know what? You're off. You're out. Boom. You're out. Because they're always going to
murder.
I know it's murder. I'm just asking.
Actually, Jeffrey, it's actually good you can brought that because that's basically what kind of the Nazis basically said. They were kind of like, I'm not calling you a Nazi, just so you know, right?
I understand. I'm bringing it up as a thought experiment. I'm not actually sitting around going, let's kill Bobby Kotick. Come on.
Yeah, they were pretty much like, look at these people in pads. So they picked a few, right? And they're like, they're destroying society kind of thing. And yeah, in the case of Bobby Kotick, he's a fucking dick. I'm never getting a game published to Activision.
Right.
And also,
well, it'll be Microsoft soon, so maybe you and Phil Spencer will get along better than you and Bobby Kotick would. So. Yeah, what's up?
The other side of it, though, is that those people also do things that the rest of us don't. They create things. Maybe they're not the creatives themselves, obviously, but they galvanize groups of people by running these organizations, and they make shit happen. At the same time, like there is benefit.
It could be more ruthless personality-wise, pretty much. Yeah, because it takes a certain kind of person, I think, to want to run like and make more money, this and that.
There's research that shows that there is a disproportionate amount of psychopaths that run big companies.
Yeah, and you have to assume they look at people like us as lesser. And they're like, you're just the chattel that makes me the money. You're not worth actually caring about. I think that has to be true, or you couldn't run a company like Amazon and treat the factory workers and the drivers the way that they are allegedly treated.
Yeah.
And a lot of people tell me when I talk about racism, they say, and they're not wrong, they say, It's not racism, it's classism is the real issue. And, you know, it wouldn't bother me if eventually a lot of us that are currently in a hate fest with each other woke up and were able to be aware of the fact that our real, quote, enemies are not each other. It's these fucking people who are, you know, running the fucking machine.
Well, I think that's what Bernie Sanders was always kind of focused on pretty much, and which is funny. He's Jewish, and yet no one decides to kind of make that connection. He's always talking about the 1%. He's always talking about poverty, and I like Bernie Sanders a lot.
I do too. I don't know if, you know, he would have, it was a different issue, but yeah, I like Bernie Sanders as well. But anyway, well, there we go. All right. Well, hey, Mr. K, thank you, buddy. Yeah.
I'm going to hop off, but I just want to finish my last thought about the whole it can happen again thing. As you know, I'm online a lot, and I fucking look through a lot of comment sections.
The Holocaust or slavery?
The Holocaust. The Holocaust. Well, and I never thought that, I didn't think that there are black people that would, that do have a feeling that it could happen again until Luke just told me, and now I'm thinking about it, and yeah, I don't know for sure that they don't think he could be right.
I think most likely I have that fear. I have a lot of black friends, like segregation, all those things. I think a lot of people do live in that fear. But
well, even Nick Fuentes the other day was saying, "Ooh, you have to drink out of a different fountain." So what? He was actually talking about it like it was like, "What's the problem with having two fountains?" Anyway, keep going.
He's an idiot, but with the amount of comments that I see online, I legitimately, have anxiety about it happening again, because I grew up with the knowledge that it has happened so many times throughout history, and every time it happened, the Jews thought, okay, it's not going to happen again, now we're more civilized. And it happened again. Every fucking time that they thought it couldn't happen again, it happened again. So I legitimately have a fear of it, especially when I look online and I go to like a Jordan Peterson video who I like, and I see 10,000 comments on one video. This was last night, and all of them are talking about Jews controlling everything, Jews this, Jews that. And I literally worry that some of those people writing those comments are going to be politicians in power someday, and that this shit could happen again.
That's the biggest danger with Nick Fuentes.
Exactly, and that's why things like
I get you're scared. I understand why. I have people who live in the South who are of the LGBT persuasion. You know what I'm saying? It's not persuasion. The point is, and they've stocked up on guns, and they were never gun people, and they're like, look. They're like, I'm a Jew and I'm an LGBT Jew, and I'm telling you, I don't feel safe in my own home these days.
100%, but that's different than the government.
They saw the shit happening in I forget where it was, Boston, where the fucking military is going through the streets and shooting tear gas at people's homes that are just standing on their porches.
It depends, because I mean, most of the people I know from the LGBTQ community who are in the Middle East, like, they literally get killed. Like, I have a friend who's from Jordan, pretty much. He cannot post to social media in case his family might kill him. So it's a fear worldwide. To understand that some people might be scared it could happen in America. And I don't want to remove people's fears, because whatever can happen could happen. Anything we've thought could never happen has happened throughout history. So
it is nice, though, that the elections in America, at least, there was clearly enough people that rejected some of the horse shit. Like all of Trump's, for the most part, people, at least for the Senate, didn't make it. The governors that were, except one, that were like, oh, the election was rigged, they didn't make it. It wasn't like a massive landslide, but it was nice to know that there's at least more people who vote that aren't falling for it. So
just because of Gen Z, that's because Gen Z
is
hard on the left.
I'm down with that.
Fine for you, dude. I think they're gonna ruin this place. But
I think Nick Fuentes, he's 24. He's just getting started. He's not old. He's just getting started. He is with him.
And you think he's going to actually be like a force?
I think he's going to be a force. I think he's eventually, people of his party, when he makes party, will get elected. I think Kanye West is allowing him to get to center stage, to get all this fan base. Like, it's not even about Kanye West necessarily, the fear. It's about Kanye West platforming Nick Fuentes. Because these are all young people there. Don't forget, in New York, right? 2 weekends ago, Nazis wanted to shoot up a synagogue, but the New York police caught them before. It's just getting started, honestly, and that's why I think we need to stop this right now.
By the way, Jews make up 13% of New York's population, but they suffer from 56% of the hate crimes.
That's true.
So there's disproportionate. Jews are actually in the whole country, I believe, Jews are the most victims of hate crimes of any other minority. And so just
in terms of religious hate crimes that the FBI puts down.
I see. Okay. All right. So just with Pete Turtle and the Amazon thing and whatever, I just want him to know I'm conflicted about this too, because I don't like the idea of silencing ideas, and I don't like the idea of telling people they can't sell this DVD or whatever. And at the same time, I'm legitimately afraid. So that shit conflicts with.
But you're kind of not really with Pete Turtle, because Pete Turtle has no problem saying probably that the books about the graphic novels that they're banning in libraries about LGBT experiences, those are okay to get rid of. So I think you really have.
He wants to ban certain books.
You have to be absolutionist or not. Otherwise, it's
which is why I say I struggle with this myself. I'm torn about it. That's my point.
I have one more question for both of you. I'll let you both go. It's late. I know. I appreciate all the time, but listen to me. You guys ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Okay. You saw the one where Larry David doesn't have any shoes and it's raining, and he's in the Holocaust Museum and he takes the shoes. Do you think?
Nope.
I mean, he needed shoes. Was that really offensive?
It was so ridiculous, and it wasn't wonderful. It wasn't hateful towards any Jewish people.
Awesome.
It just showed pretty much just even his girlfriend at the end. It was her uncle's shoes. It just showed because with Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David plays a terrible version of himself.
I know.
So you're kind of laughing at how bad he is.
Yes.
So
I mean,
I thought, and they filmed it.
Amazing.
So they filmed it inside the real LA Holocaust museums. Even the LA Holocaust Museum was on board with it.
Oh yeah. All right, Luke, man, I can't wait to talk to you when the game comes out. I'm looking forward to playing. You sent me the demo, right? You sent me a drop of it. Okay.
But only privately.
Of course.
Broken in lots of places.
Okay, and then we'll talk when it comes out. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for putting up with my crazy. Mr. K, thank you. Pete Turtle, thank you. Calls, thank you.
Luke, I'm excited for your game.
Thank you.
We will see you guys down the road. Thanks, everybody. I'm out. Bye, guys. And there you go, fellas. That was the chat. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out tonight. I appreciate it, bud.